WGNY Newburgh, WJGK HD2 Newburgh Middletown, WGNY 1220 94.5, News Talk Sports.
Hello, Knicks fans, and welcome to another Sunday edition of Jake's Hot Takes. You might be wondering, Jake, why aren't you coming to us with the usual excitement? To be frank, there is nothing to be excited about. I did not get a chance to voice my displeasure with Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Of course, as you know, the Knicks unfortunately lost that game, and I thought to myself, well, you know, at least on the Sunday show, I'll have a chance to say something good. But no, unfortunately, the Knicks do fall 2-0 to the Pacers in Madison Square Garden in the Eastern Conference Finals. Final score of 114 to 109. This was kind of a travesty to watch. I can't lie. There were a lot of good things that I saw out of this team, but there were a lot of bad things that I saw out of this team, and the bad things really concerned me because Indiana came to play. They were incredibly high power consistently throughout the entire game. No matter what squad they had out there, they were pushing the pace, and it just seemed like New York wasn't able to keep up. So I'm going to do this in a bit of a compliment sandwich kind of way where I want to say one good thing about the Knicks and I want to say one bad thing, but instead I'm going to exemplify one player who I think played a good game and one player who I think had a bad game because we're pretty much split 50-50 right now. But let's start off with something good, and that is Jalen Brunson. Of course, Brunson had himself a game with a final stat line of 36 points on 13-27 shooting, 5 for 12 from 3. With 11 assists to boot. So it was a good game out of Brunson. I think from what we've seen out of Brunson, though, this was a much more impressive facilitating game out of him rather than a scoring game. He kind of just did his classic get down close to the paint and hit that fadeaway jumper a bunch of times, which granted, it was impressive that he managed to hit that shot on like 3 consecutive possessions. And he definitely made a Herculean effort to keep us in the game. Unfortunately, he did have a look at that final 3-point shot attempt, and it didn't quite fall. And, people were frustrated with Brunson. But look, Brunson has made every shot that we have asked him to throughout the entirety of this playoff run. You really can't get mad at him for missing a deep 3 like that. Was it a poorly selected shot? Maybe a little bit, but I'm personally not holding it against Brunson or what he's done for this team. I think he played a really good game, and it's just unfortunate that we couldn't come away with the win on this one. Now, to exemplify someone bad, Karl Anthony Towns. Incredibly poor defensive performance today. Incredibly poor defensive performance on Friday because it got to the point where the Pacers were going at him so hard that Tibbs had to pull him out of the game. He had the least minutes out of any of our usual starters, and he even played less minutes than Mitchell Robinson. And he didn't have a terrible offensive night. He finishes the day with 20 points on 6 of 14 shooting, 2 for 5 from 3, and not the usual rebounding numbers we like to see out of Towns. It was definitely an off game for him. The shot selection was a little poor. He wasn't really playing that really physical brand of basketball that we saw out of him in the Boston Celtics series and in Game 1 of this series. I have no idea what was going on with him, and I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit because I do have an idea of what's actually going on with the team right now, but I don't want to get into all of that now. I kind of just want to talk the actual game, what I saw, what happened. But Towns was such a defensive liability. Pascal Siakam was giving him the business all night, and even Tyrese Halliburton was giving him the business on those switch defense moments. So I understand why Tibbs felt the need to pull Towns, even though I do think Tibbs had some questionable rotation decisions throughout this game. But ultimately, Towns just had a bad game, plain and simple. Moving on to someone good, because, our compliment sandwich, Mikal Bridges. I think Mikal Bridges has once again proven his worth to this team. He finishes with a final stat line of 20 points with 9 of 18 from the field and 1 for 3 from 3. And a couple defensive stats to boot. He had a few steals, a couple really good defensive plays. Bridges was just very consistent on the scoring end and on the defense end. His off-ball role really wasn't there all that much, at least offensively. I think off-ball defensively, he was still very good at what he did. He was occupying passing lanes, preventing open looks, just generally being a nuisance. So, Bridges has been pretty good over the course of these playoffs. He very much so underperformed offensively against Detroit, but I think across the Boston games, he was a good enough offensive player to make me say, yeah, he had a good game in pairing with his defense. Because obviously, even if Bridges didn't have the offensive night that he still had, he still obviously has his defense. And I think that justifies his minutes no matter what. But the fact that he can still give you 20 points on decent efficiency, it wasn't the best, but I mean, he shot 50% from the field, but the 3-point looks weren't great. And some of the shot selections were a little questionable. A lot of contested shots. It's like, Bridges, you just got to settle down a little bit. Everybody felt like they were rushing things a little too hard, almost trying to match the Pacers' pace. And that is just what I didn't like. And that's what we didn't do in game one. And I think that led to a much more successful game. Anytime we try to match the Pacers' high power, high speed, it's just not going to work. We need to settle and play our own brand of basketball. Moving on, OG Anunoby, another really poor performance out of him, I would say. OG finishes the day with 16 points on 6 of 11 shooting and 2 for 6 from 3. Just a complete liability defensively. I didn't see anything that really made me go like, oh yeah, that was a great play. I think he had one nice block, but other than that, he was being targeted a lot throughout the game, and offensively, he wasn't doing enough to really justify that kind of a poor defense. I think Thibodeau needs to scheme in OG in a way that doesn't just stick him in the corner and wait for a potentially open look so that he can shoot that 3. He took less 3-point shots than he did normally, especially in game 1 and in the Boston series, but that still doesn't, justify the fact that OG is basically just standing around for like 70% of the offensive possession. He needs to get moving. He's a big physical guy. He's a very good downhill player, and he needs to start being a threat to crash the lane, because Indiana's just going to let him shoot that because he doesn't make it. He doesn't make those shots. And, it was okay tonight on Friday because he shot like 33% from the field or from 3, but that's because he only took 6 shots. If OG had continued to get the ball like that, he probably would have taken up to like 10 shots and gone like 3 for 10. And that's just not what we need right now. And it's just, it was unfortunate. It feels like OG isn't playing to the team's strengths right now, and that's what really frustrates me. Moving on to Mitchell Robinson. Had a great game, I think. Constantly on the defensive side, just being a nuisance. He looks great out there. Had a bit of a scary ankle roll late into the game, but he seemed to get up and be just fine. I really liked it. I really liked everything that I saw out of Mitchell Robinson. He got us a lot of second chance opportunities. He wasn't great in the free throw department, but that's what you expect out of Mitch. But he came up big, a monster block, and just monster jams left and right. It was pretty awesome to watch. He got me pretty hyped up, I can't lie. So I think I'm going to talk about it more in depth later, the rotation, but I think Mitchell Robinson deserves more than he's getting right now out of Tibbs. And then to cap off, Josh Hart, surprisingly short game out of him. He did not play very long. He had the second least minutes out of any of the starters with just 29 minutes, 6 points, 2 for 3 from the field, and 6 rebounds and 1 assist. It was a very poor showing out of Josh Hart defensively and offensively. He's always been that gadget guy, the dirty work guy. He's going to play some defense, get some rebounds, pass the ball, kind of be a post to allow the offense to develop around him, but he just didn't look good. And that is really deeply concerning to me because I think Josh Hart is one of the essential cogs that makes this machine turn. And the fact that he had such a poor showing and that Tibbs felt the need to pull him out of the game for a majority of the minutes that he usually would be getting, very concerning to me. And the fact that we're going back to Indiana now to play the Pacers tonight does not help that situation. I don't really have a lot to say about Campaign and Deuce. They kind of played exactly how I expected them to play. Cameron Payne was awful. He had one nice defensive play where I think he got like a charge call on him, but overall, he just, he was out there with Towns and Bridges and Robinson and McBride. And I liked the set. It was fun. They were getting the energy going just a little bit, and then all of a sudden just completely fell apart, and Cameron Payne looked terrible. And the fact that Cameron Payne got minutes in the fourth quarter is a travesty. I do not know what Tom Thibodeau was thinking, but it's just not good. It wasn't good at all. Moving on, going to talk about the Pacers for a little bit. Boo. Pascal Siakam was basically infallible from anywhere on the court. He had a great night. He finishes the day with 39 points, 15 for 23 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. We talked about it earlier, how Towns was just a complete defensive liability. They just kept on going at him over and over and over again. So all in all, he had a great game. You can't deny it. It was still an impressive shooting performance, even if Towns wasn't playing great defense. Halliburton was playing the floor general all night. He finishes the night with 14 points on 5 of 16 from the field, 3 for 10 from 3, and 11 assists. He kind of made us look like fools, honestly. And he was just playing his own game. That's the thing. That's the thing that the Pacers were doing all night. And the Knicks seemed to have no answer for it. They were just playing their own style, playing at their own pace. And it felt like New York was kind of getting put in the washing machine, boom, 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 boom. Just constantly falling behind and constantly having to pick up and try and regain steps lost. It never felt like they were playing, even from like an energy standpoint, it never felt like they were really playing ahead of Indiana. Indiana really did feel like they had good control over the game for most of it. There were a few times where the Knicks kind of brought the game within striking distance, but Indiana always seemed to recover very well and just keep the ball rolling. And I mean, that part of that has to be because of, in the fourth quarter, part of that had to be because of Miles Turner, because he had an awful game until the fourth quarter when he completely exploded and ended up scoring 11 points for the Pacers in the fourth quarter, pretty much sealed the deal for us. So it was definitely frustrating seeing Turner, after he was so quiet, even throughout game one of this series and throughout all of this game, just completely come out and lay the boom on us, so to speak. The Pacers had a lot of depth. Toppin was playing well. TJ McConnell had a good game. Benedict Mathurin all had good games. These guys, they just have too much depth, honestly. They were running, I think they were going 1, 2, 3, 4. They were going 11 deep, and the Knicks only managed to go 8 deep, and Cameron Payne got less than 10 minutes. And that is really just the problem, is that the Knicks just can't keep up with Indy right now. They move too fast. Their offense is too fast. They're too good in transition. And of course, Aaron Nesmith came out and gave him a couple threes to boot, especially late in the game. Really, really harmful shots because the perimeter defense just wasn't there. The Knicks just didn't seem like they were really on focus defensively like they had been in the past. I mean, like I said, Towns was really bad. Anunoby was really bad. Hart was really bad. I would say the only guys that really had a great defensive game were Bridges and Mitchell Robinson. And in the playoffs and how deep the Pacers are going, you simply can't afford to only have 2 good defenders on the court out there. And if anything is going to change, it needs to be the defensive look. I don't think Towns can guard Siakam. I think that needs to be addressed, because if we allow Siakam to get hot like that early, like he did, I mean, he shot, I think his first 5 shots, he didn't miss. And that's just something that cannot happen. It's like a Derek White situation all over again with Boston, where as soon as Derek White got hot, all of a sudden the team exploded. So I'm going to talk about what went wrong a little bit more in the next segment, but for the meantime, I'll just stay off with this. I think that the Knicks are going to win at least one game in Indiana, and I think they're going to win tonight, but it's not going to be pretty. And if it is going to happen, Towns and Anunoby and Hart need to figure their stuff out, and they need to play defense. We've seen it out of Towns. We've seen that Towns can play decent defense, on these high power guys. So the fact that he's not is just incredibly frustrating. The same thing with Anunoby. I think Anunoby needs to step up his game, and I think it needs to be Anunoby to guard Siakam. I just think that he's too agile, too mobile. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I got right now. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some questionable minutes decisions out of Tom Thibodeau.
Or bath? And Wayne's Way Wholesale Cabinets has a great selection of all wood cabinets in the styles and colors to make your remodeling dreams come to life. Go to wayneswaycabinets.com for more info. Wayne's Way Cabinets, 1829 South Road, Wappingers Falls. Call 845-280-0880. Stop by and talk to Wayne today. You'll be glad you did.
Your life relies on power all day, every day. With spring upon us, weather-related storms and power outages disrupt your home life, work life, and more. Don't be left in the dark. Call Essential Power Systems, your local Generac automatic standby power dealer, protecting your family, home, and business. Already have a Generac? Ask about maintenance, monitors, and cold weather kits before winter. Call Mike the Generator Guy for a free estimate at 845-227-0514. Online at EssentialPowersGenerators.com. Never be powerless. Get Generacted by Essential Power Systems.
Michael's Appliances presents Ask Andy, the appliance expert. Andy, what's the average amount of time for clothes to dry?
We've had customers call us up and they're timing their dryer, drying one shirt, and they can't understand why it takes an hour and a half for that one shirt to dry. If you're using an auto dry cycle, the sensors are never being touched by that one article of clothing. So consequently, it takes forever for the dryer to realize that things are done. Today, newer dryers, generally speaking, it's an hour, 70, 80, 90 minutes. It's not because we're burning tons of fuel. It's because we're using much less. Much lower temperature in the dryer overall, longer tumbling action. That helps to prevent wrinkles, and people are used to a 20-minute cycle drying. Those days are over. You know, we used to make it very hot in the dryer and dry them very quickly. And of course, people have forgotten that then their clothes fit a Cabbage Patch doll when that happens.
Shop with the experts. Nobody knows appliances like Michael's Appliance Center, 585 East Main Street, Middletown. Online at michaelsappliance.com.
Your engine is a delicate instrument. But if you don't change the oil on a regular basis, things have a tendency to go wrong. That's why this news should be music to your ears. Because now at the Newburgh Auto Spa, you can get a free car wash with every oil change. That's right, a free car wash with every oil change.
Really?
Really. Stop into their state-of-the-art facility today and find out what quality maintenance is all about. We all need to get oil changes, so why not get a free car wash to go along with it? And while you're at it, take advantage of their 15-point vehicle inspection free of charge. That should leave you on a very happy note. Newburgh Auto Spa, located at 86 Route 17K in Newburgh. For more information, call 845-567-0009, 845-567-0009, or go online to newburghautospa.com. That's newburghautospa.com. Newburgh Auto Spa. Quick, convenient, clean.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and if you haven't already, call a Knicks fan, reach out to them, and make sure they're doing okay, because it did not look good for the New York Knicks. Of course, like I stated just a couple minutes ago, the Indiana Pacers steal Game 2 in Madison Square Garden with a final score of 114-109. And now that we've gotten through the individual performances that led us to where we are right now, I want to talk a little bit about the coaching decisions, because I think Tom Thibodeau had an incredibly poor coaching game from a rotation and a minutes standpoint. And some of it I can understand. Some of it I understand, even though the adjustments just weren't made. Realistically, I think we needed to go deeper into the bench just a little bit to alleviate some of these minutes, because I love Deuce and I like Cameron Payne, but these guys cannot carry the deeper bench by themselves, you know? And I think the decision to have Towns and Robinson and Cameron Payne and Deuce and Mikal Bridges out there all at the same time, I think that was an incredibly poor decision. I think that you can very easily remedy that lineup by simply removing Cameron Payne and adding Josh Hart. And I think that there might be something going on with Josh Hart in terms of his physical health that might have limited him in Game 2. They didn't say anything on the broadcast, and it's not like he spent a lot of time in the locker room or in the training room. But he was on the bench for a very long time, which is very uncharacteristic out of Josh Hart. I believe he was second in minutes played during this NBA season. So he's a workhorse guy. He can be out there for, 35, 36 minutes. And the fact that he wasn't, I think it really threw off a lot of the team's rhythm. And like I said, the only explanation that Tibbs could give me that I would be like, okay, yeah, that's fair. You do have to limit his minutes, is if Hart was dealing with some kind of injury. But like I said, based on his performance out there, it's not impossible, but he definitely didn't look like he was in a lot of pain out there. And the broadcast didn't mention anything about Hart dealing with any kind of injury. And there were no reports talking about a potential Josh Hart injury before this. So I'm just confused as to why Josh Hart wasn't getting minutes out there. As for Towns, I understand why he wasn't getting minutes out there. Like I said, complete defensive liability. It was cookies every single time. And he didn't have the offensive production. He didn't have that imposing factor that he had in Indiana game 1 to justify his minutes out there. And I believe Tom Thibodeau said something along the lines when asked why Towns was pulled and Cameron Payne was in the fourth quarter, which again, terrible decision to put Cameron Payne in the fourth quarter. He said that the guys that they had in the fourth quarter gave them the best chance of winning. And in my opinion, that is ridiculous. Cameron Payne does not give you the best chance of winning. And the fact that if Tom Thibodeau really believes what he's saying and he actually thinks that Cameron Payne gave us the best shot at winning, that is bad coaching. That's just plain and simple. That's not knowing your roster, and that's not understanding the situation. You cannot have Cameron Payne out there in the fourth quarter. You can put him out there in the second. You can put him out there late in the first. You can put him out there in the third. But in the fourth quarter, the clutch, the most important part of the game, we were storming back, trying to snatch the lead from Indiana, just like how they snatched it from us late in game 1. Cameron Payne is not the guy to do that, Tom Thibodeau, and you know that. So why did you play him? Oh, man. I'm getting all fired up. But no. And there were other issues with the team, and I don't think it's any coincidence that Anunoby and Towns severely underperformed in game 2 when they were spotted on the bench late in game 1 bickering with each other, and they needed another guy. I believe it was Deuce McBride just came up and was like, fellas, we're in a game right now. But they were jawing off at each other. And there were a couple plays when OG and Towns were on the court at the same time where they were acting weird with each other. OG went up and went for a rebound, and Towns got his hand on it too. And OG snatched it, and Towns kind of threw up his hands at him like, dude, what are you doing? So the fact that we have two guys on the court together who are actively I don't want to say beefing, because these things happen. Guys get frustrated with each other, and it's always a concern. But seeing it impact team chemistry like that when they're both on the court, that is completely unacceptable. And not only is that completely unacceptable, that is the responsibility of Tom Thibodeau and Jalen Brunson to sort out. That kind of issue should never have gone beyond game 1. I understand why they were frustrated. Towns missed an important free throw. OG Anunoby missed an important free throw, and I'm sure they were frustrated with each other. They were trying to hold each other accountable. But allowing this kind of behavior to go into game 2, it obviously damaged team chemistry. OG Anunoby and Towns both had probably one of their worst games of the playoffs so far, aside from maybe a game in the Detroit Pistons series. I can't really remember that off the dome, but across Boston, and definitely compared to game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, these guys looked like a completely different team. They looked so out of sync. They looked like they didn't understand what was happening. They were poor in the turnovers department. It was just dumb plays after dumb plays. And the fact that we had such a good game 1 performance, the Pacers were just a little better. And then we came in and had that, complete disaster in game 2. We've seen what this team does when they gel together. We've seen the chemistry that this team has. And the fact that in the biggest stage, Towns and Anunoby are unable to work together in these moments, and it's causing damage to team chemistry, I understand why they both had their minutes limited. I understand why Mitchell Robinson got more minutes than Towns. because Mitchell Robinson isn't going to cause problems. He's going to go out there and do what he does best. He's going to get those rebounds. He's going to get those putbacks. He's going to get us second chance opportunities. Towns barely did any of that. And even when he was in that power forward position, it's not like he was doing a great job of scoring consistently. Sure, when he got the ball in his hands, sometimes he could find the hoop, but definitely not to the same degree that we saw in game 1. And if you're going to be a defensive liability, you need to pick up for it on the offensive end. Look at a guy like Luka Doncic. Like, he justifies his minutes just by being out there and doing crazy things. But Towns just wasn't able to perform, and he wasn't able to impose himself, and he wasn't able to play any of that bully ball that we saw out of him, like I said, throughout Boston and Indiana. And that is so frustrating because I've seen what this team can do when they put the pieces together. And it just seems like poor leadership in the locker room right now. And that's what I think it is. I think Brunson or Tibbs or whoever needs to knock some heads together and say, guys, we need to win this game. Because it didn't seem like anybody was particularly interested in winning this game, other than, of course, Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges and Mitchell Robinson. But it takes more than just 3 of those guys to, make this happen. And part of what I think needs to happen going into game 3 is I think Mitchell Robinson needs to start. And I think Josh Hart needs to be moved to the bench. I think the starting lineup should be Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns, and Mitchell Robinson. And that's not because Josh Hart is a bad player or that I don't think that he's bringing value by being on the court. I just think that right now he could be a lot more valuable coming off the bench and bringing that spark in, because when we're relying on guys like Cameron Payne and Deuce McBride to come off the bench when guys need a blow and really get the energy going, those are not the guys that I want doing that. I don't want Cameron Payne handling the ball. I don't want him handling the ball. He tripped and he lost the ball out of bounds on a stupid turnover. And that kind of thing in the Eastern Conference Finals is unacceptable. And it's just frustrating because Josh Hart could be coming off the bench. And I think if he did come off the bench, it would be great for the team. He's a great dirty work guy. He can play defense. And we would have probably one of our strongest defensive rosters going into that, starting the game off. Maybe even having Towns come off the bench. I understand the media storm that would come if Towns ended up coming off the bench. I mean, probably the highest profile offseason trade, getting benched in the Eastern Conference Finals. They're not going to talk about how it's happening to Julius Randle too, but he just had a phenomenal game against Oklahoma City, so I'm not going to say anything about that. Well, I am just a little later in the show. We're talking about OKC and Minnesota later because things are getting interesting out there, but overall, just an incredibly poor showing out of the Knicks, and I think that the Anunoby and Towns conflict is causing issues in the team chemistry that Brunson playing hero ball and Bridges playing that incredible defense just can't remedy, because sometimes you just can't remedy things like team chemistry with amazing three-point shots, So all in all, I think the changes that need to be made is I think we need to keep Towns out of the limelight as best as we can on defense. I think that if he can just spend his defensive possessions standing in the corner, that's fine. I'm sure Indiana's going to be going at him a lot. We're going to need a backup plan for that. And I want to see Towns and Anunoby's off-ball productivity increase. Karl Anthony Towns was so good setting screens for Jalen Brunson and getting open looks against Boston. And I don't understand why we're not seeing that a lot. Nesmith is very good at getting past the screen, and we've seen it a couple times when Bridges tries those screens, but Karl Anthony Towns is a big man. He is hard to get around. So I think just allowing Brunson a little bit more space to either find an open look or potentially drive or potentially just pull up with that three-point shot. Nesmith has been all over him. He's been on him like white on rice all series, and you can see that Brunson has been struggling in a lot of these cases, not being able to just, hit like a nasty snatch on Al Horford or something. And the Pacers have done a really good job of keeping their defensive focus on Brunson. And even when Nesmith isn't actively guarding him, Nembhard is doing a really good job guarding him too. So we need to get Brunson some space. We need to allow him these opportunities. And obviously, even without him, he's still overperforming. But I mean, seriously, the fact that Towns and Anunoby both just seem like they're not doing anything on the offensive side. That's the thing. If they were putting up a lot of shots and they just weren't falling, that would be one thing. It's technically a statistical outlier. The Boston fans will always throw around, statistical outlier this, statistical outlier that. We beat you on 6. Calm down. But if Towns and Anunoby are just standing in the corner. They're not doing anything. So I'm done talking about the Knicks for now. When we get back, I'm going to be talking about OKC and Minnesota, and then we're talking about the tush push ban because stuff's getting crazy out there. Stay tuned. Jake's Hot Takes, WGNY 1220 94.5. News, talk, sports, emphasis on the sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, I'm Mark Guido. Thank you for making Frank Guido's Little Italy the #1 location for all of your special occasions. From an intimate family gathering to a festive affair for up to 100 guests, Little Italy is the place to go. We are experienced, professional, and affordable. Whether it's birthdays, anniversaries, reunions, retirements, rehearsal dinners, and even after funeral gatherings, Little Italy has the perfect size space with delicious food at a reasonable price. You enjoy your event and let us do all the work. Call Marie at 845-340-1682 or visit us online at frankguidoslittleitaly.com. Call Marie at 845-340-1682 or visit us online at frankguidoslittleitaly.com. Little Italy has the perfect size space with delicious food at a reasonable price. You will be glad you did. And remember, as always, come celebrate on the day of your birthday and get up to a $25 value on us.
Michael's Appliances presents Ask Andy, the appliance expert. Andy, is it bad to use fabric softener sheets?
More often than not, a fabric softener sheet helps keep the static down in your dryer. Most newer dryers, the lint screen is so fine that the oils in the fabric softener sheet actually plug up your lint screen. Reduces efficiency, causes overheating, causes the machine to kick off on high limit. So sometimes what you really want to do is not use dryer sheets. Use the same dryer sheet 2 or 3 times. Fabric softener in a washer is the better way to go. Most people don't realize that all the lint in your dryer actually comes from your washing machine. It's the agitating action that causes a problem where the clothing is scrubbing together and you end up with all the little pilling. And a fabric softener actually will help lessen the pilling if it's in the washing machine.
Shop with the experts. Nobody knows appliances like Michael's Appliance Center, 585 East Main Street, Middletown. Online at michaelsappliance.com.
Coverage varies by plan. View contracts and exclusions at endurancewarranty.com.
In sports, it's the dream team. And if your car is out of warranty, there's a team for that as well. You, the driver, your mechanic, and Endurance to pay for the repair bills. I'm Danica Patrick. In the past 5 years, auto repair costs have gone up over 36%. And if your manufacturer's warranty is expired, you'll have to cover it all. With an Endurance auto protection plan, no matter what the mileage, if your car is under 20 years old, Endurance can get you covered on the engine, electrical system, transmission, AC, and more. Endurance has plans for any budget. Repairs can be done by the certified mechanic of your choice. Plans cover 24/7 towing, battery jumps, fuel deliveries, tire changes, and lockout services. Act now and get the benefits of our Elite Plan, a $2,000 value at no extra cost. With Endurance, you could never pay for covered auto repairs again. So call now for your free quote.
Call 800-291-0342, 800-291-0342, 800-291-0342.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you've been watching this show loyally for the last couple episodes, you might be asking yourself, Jake, what was going on in the Western Conference? Why didn't you talk about the Western Conference? It's because there wasn't anything to talk about. OKC was consistently beating the brakes off of Minnesota, and I honestly didn't feel the need to really talk about it. But all of a sudden, things have gotten interesting because last night, the Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 143-101. They beat the brakes off of those boys. And it all came behind the heroic efforts of one Mr. Julius Randle, former New York Knick, and of course Anthony Edwards, current Minnesota Timberwolf. But no, it was a great game out of both of those guys, and they really did spearhead an incredibly dominant win over a Thunder team that was starting to feel a little unbeatable. And this game definitely has given me a lot of hope for the Knicks, because if the Timberwolves can manage to pull one off over the Thunder, the Knicks can absolutely get one over Indiana, even if we're playing in Indiana. I understand that this was the first game for the Wolves at home in this playoff series, but regardless, They won their game 3 after going down 2-0. We can win our game 3 after going down 2-0. But let's talk about Minnesota. Anthony Edwards led the team in scoring with 30 points on 12 of 17 from the field and 5 for 8 from 3. Incredibly efficient night out of Anthony Edwards. He is once again proving why he is one of the best up-and-coming young superstars in the league. I think he's only like 23 or 24 years old, and doing this, going to the Western Conference in back-to-back seasons, incredibly impressive performance out of Ant. He is here to... He's not just here to play basketball. He's here to humiliate you too. That's always kind of what I like about Anthony Edwards. I think it's funny that he's always looking to not just win the game, humiliate you. He wants to make you look like a fool out there and make Oklahoma City look like a fool. He did. Just a classic Anthony Edwards performance. Julius Randle also had a phenomenal performance, ending the day with 24 points on 9 of 15 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and it was a good game out of him. He was very quiet in the first 2 games of this series, and I believe he even got benched for a decent portion of the fourth quarter in game 2. And a lot of people were, making a big deal about that, talking about, the Towns and Randall trade was so even, but now both of these guys are getting benched in the Western Conference Finals. But I would give the nod to Randall right now in terms of performance. But honestly, I think it's just because Randall fits the scheme of Minnesota better. And I am confident that Towns is going to have a bounce back game tonight. I'm very hopeful for it. I'm optimistic, let's say. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm optimistic. But other incredible performers from the Minnesota Timberwolves include Leonard Miller, finished the day with 11 points. Naz Reid finished with 10 points on great efficiency. Nickeil Alexander-Walker finishes the day with 12 points. And Terrence Shannon Jr. finishes the day with 15 points. Was not expecting that. Terrence Shannon coming off the bench. Man, Minnesota got deep with this game. They went 14 players deep. And that is depth in the playoffs that New York wishes that they could match, and even Indiana wishes they could match, because I think Indiana only ended up going about 11 deep against New York. But if you want to talk about depth, man, check out the Oklahoma City Thunder. They had all 15 players on their roster touch the court last night, and some standout performers. There were none. There were a lot of really underwhelming performers. There was not a single player on the Thunder to score more than 15 points. None of them. Not even the reigning MVP, recently named reigning MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It was a terrible performance out of him. He was on very bad efficiency. 4 for 13 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and 14 points. He got humbled, I think. I think that it was an incredibly poor showing out of him, as well as an incredibly poor showing out of Jalen Williams, who we know isn't the strongest offensive player, but he's usually good for like 15 or 16. But even then, the defense wasn't there either. They were giving him the business all night. Chet, usually filling that big man role, only managed to get 5 rebounds and 10 points on very poor shooting efficiency, 3 for 7 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. It just wasn't what Oklahoma City needed. It felt like all of these guys were underperforming, and even the guys that were coming off the bench, who can usually give you a little something, very high efficiency, very poor shooting percentages. Isaiah Joe, 1 for 7 from the field. Alex Caruso, 1 for 5 from the field. Jalen Williams, 0 for 6 from the field. It was really bad. That's Jalen with a Y, by the way, other Jalen Williams. And then going back to Minnesota, I would say that overall, their bench had a much more successful performance. Naz Reid finishes with 8 rebounds and 10 points, like I said, and Minnesota just looked like they came to play. And I don't think this game really matters. That's my hot take. I don't think this game really matters. I still think that the Thunder are going to come away with this series in 6 games or 5 games. Probably, if I could get real angsty towards Minnesota and Julius Randle and be like, oh, well, the Thunder are still going to win in 5. Realistically, I think Minnesota's probably going to get one more game over Oklahoma City. So I'm going to say Thunder in 6 for now, but I don't think one major blowout really defines the series. I mean, Boston managed to get a monster win against New York in the Garden, and it ended up not really mattering to the grand scheme of the series anyway. So I don't really have faith in this Oklahoma City team, or I don't really have faith in this Timberwolves team to continue the fight against Oklahoma City and really take this to 7 games. I think I'm going to say Thunder in 6. Now we got some NFL news because the tush-push ban has officially failed. The league has ruled that the tush-push will continue. Jalen Hurts will continue to steal rushing touchdowns from Saquon Barkley, and the Philadelphia Eagles have gotten their way. I guess that's what you get when you win the Super Bowl, right? Hey, but no, the league put it to a vote, obviously. It wasn't just a league decision. The league put it to a vote, and the following teams voted yes to ban the tush-push. I'll give you the quick list right now. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers, the Bengals, the Colts, the Texans, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears, the Giants, the Cowboys, the Commanders, the Panthers, the Falcons, the Buccaneers, the Rams, the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Cardinals. And now that's pretty funny because we even had entire divisions voting in favor of the tush-push ban. And notice the only team from the NFC East to not vote to ban the tush-push ban was Philadelphia themselves. The Cowboys, Giants, and Commanders all voted to ban the play. I wonder why. But in addition to that, the NFC and AFC West both had all 4 teams in their division vote to ban the tush-push, which is crazy because those teams usually don't agree on anything. But no, I think there is an interesting conversation to be had around the tush-push. A lot of people have cited player safety concerns, and the truth is that, yes, the tush-push is one of the most brutal plays on the body that you could possibly make, especially for the offensive line. But are we really going to try and make it so that offensive linemen aren't taking immense bodily harm in football? Is that not the job description? Is that not what you sign up to do? And of course, I understand if there's a way to minimize harm, then we should do it. But are we going to ban blocking next? Like, I feel like it's a very slippery slope when one team does something really well and then all of a sudden player safety concerns start getting cited. That sets a precedent where if one team is doing something really well and the rest of the league doesn't like it, they can just vote to get rid of it. So ultimately, I don't think that the tush-push should have been banned. And ultimately, I think I am happy with this ruling because it's not like the tush-push is something that any team can just do and it's like causing all these injuries. There weren't a lot of situations where guys were getting hurt on tush-push plays, and obviously, you know, the underlying damage to the head and to the body is incredibly damaging. But, you know, this is the NFL. This is football. A wide receiver catching a ball in the middle of the field and then getting whacked by a linebacker, as long as it's a legal play, causes immense physical damage to the body. But we're not going to ban linebackers putting their shoulder down and laying dudes out. That's why we watch football, man. But ultimately, I think that we should be concerned about player safety. And if the NFL is so concerned about player safety, don't ban the tush-push. Force offensive linemen to wear the Guardian caps. They're proven to be safer, but the NFL for some reason has no interest in enforcing these strictly. They just kind of say, "Oh, you can wear them if you want." If the NFL really cared about player safety, they would make the offensive linemen wear the Guardian caps. That's as simple as it is, because banning a play isn't going to do anything. The QB sneaks would still exist. That is an incredibly damaging play on the body, but we wouldn't even think about banning the QB sneak. And like I said, it's not like it's a cheap play for Philadelphia. Other teams have tried. Buffalo tried in the playoffs, and they failed. and they failed to get 1 yard. So it's not like this play is completely unstoppable and completely unfair. Philadelphia spent their resources and they spent their money putting together an offensive line that is strong enough to manhandle any defensive line in the league. And that's exactly what it shows. It's like getting mad at Derrick Henry for stiff-arming someone, citing player safety concerns. It's like, this is what we pay them to do. So all in all, just kind of a silly situation. That being said, I hate the Philadelphia Eagles, and the tush-push should absolutely have been banned. Not because of any player safety concerns or because it's unfair, but because I hate the Philadelphia Eagles, and I wish that their organization would take constant setbacks instead of constantly being flung into whatever, successful venture they're going into next. So when we get back after the commercial break, we're going to be talking Protector of the Year, because the NFL is introducing a new end-of-year award, and I am incredibly excited to talk about it. I was a former offensive lineman in high school myself, so the big fellas are finally getting some love, and I could not be more appreciative for it. You know, it kind of in the same vein as the tush push. This Eagles offensive line, man, one of those guys probably deserved a Protector of the Year last year, considering all the work that they did. You know, if the league is trying to ban it, you might be doing something right, unless you're cheating, or you're Tom Brady. But anyway, when we get back, we're talking Protector of the Year. So stay tuned. Jake's Hot Takes, WGNY 1220 94.5 News Talk Sports. We'll be right back after this.
Michael's Appliances presents Ask Andy, the appliance expert. Andy, what makes my oven smell so bad when I self-clean?
Self-clean, my favorite weapon in the world. Self-cleaning is a brutal environment. Most people don't think about it. They hear self-clean. I'm not really sure if they're picturing scrubbing bubbles inside there, scrubbing, but what's really happening is we're heating the oven up hot enough to carbonize protein. We're going to take the food stuff that's left in your stove, and we're actually going to carbonize it. We're going to turn it to dust. So we're 700 degrees. So why does it smell bad? You're setting fire to a chicken. Today, a lot of the new stoves, because of the energy guidelines, there is no real self-clean anymore. They don't want those high temperatures. It's a huge waste of energy. It's very easy. You don't have to get on your hands and knees and your back doesn't hurt. You're not scrubbing the stove, but we use a ton of energy to clean the inside of that stove by heating it up.
Shop with the experts. Nobody knows appliances like Michael's Appliance Center, 585 East Main Street, Middletown. Online at michaelsappliance.com.
Your life relies on power all day, every day. With spring upon us, weather-related storms and power outages disrupt your home life, work life, and more. Don't be left in the dark. Call Essential Power Systems, your local Generac automatic standby power dealer, protecting your family, home, and business. Already have a Generac? Ask about maintenance, monitors, and cold weather kits before winter. Call Mike the Generator Guy for a free estimate at 845-227-0514. Online at EssentialPowersGenerators.com. Never be powerless. Get Generacted by Essential Power Systems. You've long known that Newburgh Auto Spa on Route 17K utilizes top caliber products and the latest technology to give your vehicle the proper maintenance it needs. Whether it be a computerized soft cloth car wash, detailing consisting of a comprehensive bumper-to-bumper cleaning of your entire interior and exterior, or a fuel-efficient oil change from a trained technician, Newburgh Auto Spa is the place to go. Now, Newburgh Auto Spa is a full-service automotive center. That's right, Newburgh Auto Spa now offers tires, brakes, rotors, tune-ups, alternators, and more, all with the same professionalism and quality you've become accustomed to. For a full list of automotive services offered in specials, go to NewburghAutospa.com. Whether you need a basic car wash, a quick oil change, or now more extensive automotive service, Newburgh Auto Spa is the place to go. Newburgh Auto Spa, quick, convenient, clean, located at 86 Route 17K and online at NewburghAutospa.com. Now offering a full range of automotive services. Newburgh Auto Spa, quick, convenient, clean.
Davis Furniture in Poughkeepsie is having a floor model clearance sale, up to 70% off. That's right, Davis Furniture needs to make room for new arrivals and is having a floor model clearance sale with up to 70% off. At Davis Furniture on Route 9 in Poughkeepsie, all their furniture is American-made and chemical-free. You and your family deserve the Davis Furniture difference and a healthier life. DavisFurnitureOnline.com.
What is the most underappreciated position in sports? If you said anything other than the offensive line in the professional football league, the National Football League, you have no idea what you're talking about. The offensive line put their lives, their minds, and their bodies on the line every single day to protect their quarterbacks and protect their running backs, and they barely get any appreciation whatsoever. Offensive linemen that are taken high in the draft are often looked at with such criticism and criticized. Why didn't you take the skill position? Why didn't you take the quarterback? Look at Eric Fisher in the 2014 draft. People criticized that pick very heavily, even though he was exactly what Kansas City needed. But my point is, the offensive line doesn't get the love that they deserve until now. The NFL is announcing a new end-of-year award that will be awarded to what they believe to be the best offensive lineman in the league, and they're going to call it the Protector of the Year Award. Now, I hope that the Protector of the Year Award does not just devolve into just picking whatever tackle people like the most and whichever team made it to the conference championship game, like just picking from one of those 4 teams and picking the best tackle on that team. I really hope that guards and centers are considered for this lineup, even though the tackle position is notoriously very difficult. I think that guards and centers need to be given some love because sometimes they can really anchor down an entire team. And in honor of this monumentous occasion for offensive linemen everywhere, I am going to be going retroactively through the last couple seasons and just kind of talking about which offensive linemen I think deserved the award back then. So starting off with the previous year, there were a lot of good picks. There were a lot of really phenomenal offensive line seasons. Of course, you have Penei Sewell for the Detroit Lions. You have Joe Thuney for the Kansas City Chiefs. And you have Frank Ragnow, again, for the Detroit Lions. Detroit and Kansas City and Philadelphia, those guys got some offensive lines. So really, there were a few guys on either of those teams that I think you could have reasonably picked. But my pick for Protector of the Year 2024 is indeed Lane Johnson, tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. He just anchored one of the most dynamic and powerful offenses in the entire NFL. They won the Super Bowl, and he's a monster. He's an animal. Defenders fear him. So I'm going to give it to Lane Johnson of the Philadelphia Eagles. Moving on to 2023, there were a lot of good picks for this one as well. But, there's Jordan Mailata of the Philadelphia Eagles had a phenomenal season. Zach Martin of the Dallas Cowboys had a really good season. Joel Bitonio of the Cleveland Browns. Can't forget Jason Kelce, of course. But my pick is San Francisco 49ers tackle Trent Williams. That dude is a mountain of a man. He has a bad attitude, and he just lays mitts on people. He is a guy that you always want to have on your team. He is a ruthless defender, and of course, Big Trent, one of the greatest to ever do it. You got to get him his Protector of the Year award at some point. By the way, I'm not doing any repeat awards because that would just be really lazy because Trent Williams would literally be probably top 3 in the running for this award for the last decade. So Trent Williams gets his in 2023 and not again for the rest of my list. Moving on to 2022, a lot of great picks. You got Chris Lindstrom, guard for the Atlanta Falcons. You got Michael Onwenu, Michael Onwenu, guard for, what team was he a guard for? I can't remember off the dome. All right. Anyway, I'm giving it to Joel Bitonio, guard for the Cleveland Browns. He just is a monster, and he anchored an incredibly dynamic running season for Nick Chubb, and really just a very consistent guy. He hasn't dealt with injuries a lot, which you can't necessarily say for Big Trent. Hasn't dealt with injuries, and this would be the first guard on this list to win the award. I think he had a phenomenal year in 2022, and I think he's well deserving of the award. For 2021, again, lots of good picks. Jason Kelce had one of the best years of his career, I think. Quentin Nelson also in that conversation. There are just, some guys that are always going to be in the running. Jason Kelce throughout the last decade has always been there. Quentin Nelson throughout the last decade has always kind of been there. But I'm giving it to Zach Martin, guard for the Dallas Cowboys. One of the most consistent football players of all time. He has more all-pro selections than holding penalties throughout his entire career, which is simply one of the most absurd stats I have ever heard in my entire life. He is a unit, and he anchored down that Cowboys offense for, like I said, a decade. A lot of these guys were drafted right around the 2013, 2014, 2015. I believe Martin was a 2014 draft selection. So he's been holding it down for Dallas for 9 years. So you got to give credit where credit is due. For the 2020 season, I wanted to get a little bit of center representation. So I went with Corey Linsley for the Green Bay Packers. One of the last really great years of his career. But he just allowed Green Bay to do so much right up the middle because he was an immovable force. It didn't matter how big of a defensive lineman you had. He always had the leverage. He always had you moving. He was always pushing the ball down, helping push the ball downfield. So Corey Linsley, one of the best run blocking centers we've seen in a very long time, and he is my pick for the 2020 Protector of the Year. Now, I kind of want to get into a little bit of what makes an offensive lineman great and what the consideration is for. Now, a great offensive lineman, one of the best things that you can have as an offensive lineman is availability. It doesn't matter if you are the most talented lineman we've ever seen. If you cannot stay healthy and consistently be out there to defend your guys, if you can't play every snap of every game, the offensive linemen are pretty much the only position on the field, aside from the quarterback, who play every single offensive snap every single game. And even then, the quarterback doesn't always play every single snap, because if you go up by a lot, teams are going to pull their quarterbacks. You know, if you're leading by 35, shoot. Get Josh Allen, get Joe Burrow, get Pat Mahomes out of there. But the offensive line, no, they stay in, because those are some dogs. And they're going to do everything that they can to benefit the team. So if you don't have that ability to stay on the field and just keep on pushing and pushing and pushing, you can't be a great offensive lineman. Another thing that comes into it is the balance between pass blocking and run blocking, because you hear the word blocking and people don't realize that blocking means a lot of different things. When it comes to pass blocking, you need to be able to anchor yourself and not give up space. It doesn't necessarily matter if you can take the space back. You just need to hold. If you can hold your guy exactly where he is and not move, that is a successful pass block. That is exactly what your quarterback needs. Your quarterback will be able to make the reads and be able to move off of you. You do not need to be driving guys back on a pass block, especially considering the illegal man downfield penalty, which is one of the worst penalties in the NFL, in my opinion, for the offensive line. I just think it's so terrible that an offensive lineman can be punished for doing a great job pushing his guy downfield on a pass block. And I understand that it's like rules with screens and stuff like that, and like, you know, offensive linemen can't catch the ball. They're not eligible players to catch the ball, so they can't be past the line of 2 yards past the line of scrimmage. But I still think that rule is really dumb. Another great thing is run blocking. Run blocking is necessary. Run blocking is when you need to actually take the space, because if you are run blocking and you get stood up and you just stand at a complete stalemate with your guy, that is not a successful run block. That's the difference between pass blocking and run blocking. A run block requires you to actively take space and move your guys. And sometimes it requires the knowledge to understand, oh, if this guy is going to shoot here, I need to be able to climb up to that second level and occupy a linebacker. That is how those plays where running backs break off huge plays, running backs aren't going to be able to break 5 or 6 tackles, at least the average running back. Maybe Derrick Henry or Saquon can get it done, but the average running back is not going to be able to break 5 or 6 tackles, especially from how physical the linebackers are in the NFL now. It is the offensive lineman's responsibility to get up to that second level and occupy bodies. And you need to have the know-how to know you need to have the know-how and the trust in your fellow linemen to say, well, if this guy is going to if this defensive lineman is going to get out of the way, I need to climb because my running back is coming up right behind me and I need to clear the way. You will barely ever see running back plays where running backs are just breaking through like 5 or 6 or 7 tackles. It's always the offensive linemen that are getting downfield and occupying those bodies. And man, let me tell you, I played offensive line in high school. One of the best feelings ever is managing to get up, managing to climb even past the linebackers and getting up and hitting a safety. You get to see the fear in their eyes right before you put your shoulder down and just bury a dude. So that's one of the best feelings in all of football for the offensive line. O-linemen, I'm sure you know, those safeties don't stand a chance against us. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for today. I saw the Protector of the Year. I got very excited. I wanted to waffle about the offensive line for a little bit. They are my favorite position in football. I love these guys. They are warriors, and I'm so happy that that they're getting the recognition that they deserve. They should absolutely name the award after Joe Thomas. Of course, Joe Thomas did not miss a single start in his, I believe, 9-year career until he got a career-ending injury. So that dude is a dog. He didn't miss a single snap. And if there's any player that deserves to have an offensive line award named after him, it should be the guy that exemplifies everything that an offensive lineman should have been. So if I had a vote in it, I would say Joe Thomas, the Joe Thomas Protector of the Year award. But yeah, just wanted to give a little credit to my offensive linemen. And yeah, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Next episode will be next Thursday at noon, same time, same place. Hopefully, I'll be able to come to you with some good news. Hopefully, the series will be tied at 2 for the New York Knicks. And hopefully, some other good things will be going on. Anyway, my name is Jake McVey. This has been Jake's Hot Takes. I thank you for listening. And yeah, tune in next Thursday at noon, only on WGNY 1220 94.5 News Talk Sports. See you later, folks.
WGNY Newburgh, WJGK HD2 Newburgh Middletown, WGNY 1220 94.5 News Talk Sports.
Behold you, but dark.